If you or a family member has been affected by gear acquisition syndrome, call 1-800-MATT-PRANKA.
Warning, hugs are not included and may or may not include a drunken disorderly rant.
So today we're going to be talking about something that affects everyone and every industry in the gun sphere. It can be known as like restless rifle syndrome, where you're always changing and tuning and doing different things just to satisfy your ADHD, but today we're just going to call it gear acquisition syndrome, which in this context is essentially seeking to buy stuff to satisfy that dopamine hit rather than actually acquiring skills, especially if your stated purpose is to actually grow and improve, but instead of doing that, you just buy more stuff. And now, in its simplest terms, this is just consumerism, which is sort of at its final stage in modern Western society. Now, specifically talking about YouTube for just a minute, the reason why the content on YouTube is so consumery, so normie focused, and so slopified these days, let's say, is because that's the audience that's on YouTube. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not great content out there, that there's not good training stuff, but by and large, the average person turns on YouTube to be entertained. That's the vast majority of people. A smaller subsect of people are looking for buying recommendations to scratch that dopaminergic itch, and an even smaller subsect of people, probably between 1 and 5%, are looking for actual useful information and are willing to put in the work with that information to actually translate that into real-world usefulness. And so when somebody from the outside criticizes YouTube, and by extension YouTubers, for being grifting shills that are peddling slop to their unsuspecting audience, well, by and large, they're correct. You see it all the way from the biggest channels all the way down to the little guys. They're peddling as much money as possible to try and emulate what they see the big channels doing, to try and get a taste of that money, of that cash flow, and then they get trapped in there through the affiliate pipeline, and they never leave. And some people are very open about it, and some people not so much. In my opinion, it's all sort of a zero-sum game when it comes to just pushing the newest mediocre product from insert your company here. It really only benefits the banking class when people are really consumed by this hype train marketing industry that's always reliant on the next product. For instance, SIG has come out with 5 generations of the MCX, 100 different variations of the 320 and 365, some of them with an auto trigger, some of them without, allegedly. And you see very, very little real innovation or improvements really across the entire industry. Now, of course, there's always exceptions to that rule, and there's specific products or types of products that are pushing the boundaries in new and interesting ways, but that is the exceptional minority of them. Most of the time, XYZ pistol came out from XYZ company, and it's the same thing that it was, except now it's more expensive or has this one little tweak that maybe somebody will like. Now, somebody might think that, oh, you're talking about Glock because they haven't innovated in 20 plus years. Well, they really haven't had to. Glocks do exactly what they're supposed to do. They are relatively inexpensive compared to a lot of firearms. They work a very high percentage of the time. So just innovating for the sake of saying you're innovating because you tweaked a couple things or added a new finish or a new frame or something like that, when you've added nothing of value to the market, except for extracting some money out of unsuspecting consumers' pockets. So here comes the question, do you throw the proverbial baby out with the defecated bathwater? And, well, no, I don't think you truly can. I don't think you can change YouTube from a space that cares about the next hype train product, consumerism slop, to a place that really cares about the true meaning of the Second Amendment, the prepared citizen, the training focused group. I just don't think that can happen because you'd have to change the population first. Again, maybe 1% of people actually care about getting better with what they have, because it is far easier just to buy the thing than to actually get good with it. So for instance, take your popular big channel that gets 1 million views on a video, and then take a training focused channel and that gets 10,000 views on a channel, right? So literally about 1% of people are actually interested in that training content and getting better. So you can raise your fist at the sky and you can yell angrily or drunkenly on a live stream, but it's not going to change anything. In fact, it's only going to make your position worse. And I forgot about all the different sides of the gun industry. You have the fear porn dudes who say if you don't have 60K worth of kit ready to go at any second, you're literally going to die. Also, check out all of my sponsors for all of this cool stuff I'm showing off in this video. Then you have the guys who are all about fitness. If you are not fit, you are literally gonna get killed. By the way, please buy my workout programs. And don't take into account the fact that my gear acquisition is different than your gear acquisition. Then you have the gear queers who are all about the newest, latest, greatest thing. Then you have the gamer fags where everything's just about competition and nothing else matters whatsoever. Then you have the tactical Timmies who can quote army doctrine chapter and verse, but if you ask them to shoot a bill drill in under 2 seconds, they reach for their purse. But I don't know, maybe we should just take a more holistic approach to everything. Fitness is great, everybody should be in the best shape that they can reasonably achieve. Making smart, well-educated gear decisions is going to save you a lot of time, money, and headaches in the long run. Building up those hard skills, which are the hardest part, is to actually get good with the guns that you're buying. That probably takes the most time and money in terms of the guns themselves, but more importantly, the ammo and time considerations. Knowing all of the tactics and the footwork for a CQB is probably worth less, but not worthless. And the fear porn guys, well, actually, they can just go away. So on this channel, at least, I try and be a voice against rampant consumerism. For instance, the things that you actually quote-unquote need to buy are extremely basic. Very, very basic, and usually pretty inexpensive. The hard part is always going to be actually getting good with the things, and you can watch tactic videos and CQB videos because they're entertaining. You can spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $6,000 on a multi-day class to get good at that thing because it's fun. But if you're not actually good with the stuff, it's pretty irrelevant, right? The base skills are always the fundamentals, and having the fundamentals be able to be executed at a very high level, that's what's actually important 99% of the time. That being said, a very good point is people are always coming into the gun sphere, 2A sphere, whatever you want to call it, and they own exactly nothing. And so there should be somebody there to provide them with a reasonable voice about what they should and should not get, where they should go for training, all those sorts of facets. Somebody should be there to do that. So on this channel, we try not to gatekeep who can speak, because everyone can speak. But if you choose to, then you have to be held to a higher standard regardless of your size. Whether you're 4 million subscribers or 4 subscribers, if you're putting out information to help people, well, then that has to be held to a higher standard than just, oh, this is goofing off for fun. And that's why I personally am not interested in 99% of the gun content out there, because it's either entertainment, which is fine, but just not my thing. I usually get my entertainment from other things, or it's rampant consumerism, or it's just plain bad, in some cases comical, which is at least funny to roast at times. Now, when it comes to training content specifically, I think that there are a few channels that have actually risen up over the past few years that actually have put out a lot of really good information, a lot of high-level training for free that you can find on YouTube. T-Rex Arms started a whole new channel, which he pays for all of those people to do, specifically focusing on training and all of that sort of good stuff. Ben Stager, Hunter Constantine, lots of great people out there that focus on the training side of things rather than just the gear slop, which Hunter does a little bit of that. But hey, we all got to make money somehow. And that's actually a good transition to talk about making money on YouTube. I don't care how much money you make. You can make $1 gazillion a year being a paid sponsored shooter, entertainer, whatever it may be. That's all good. You can make an infinite amount of money before that becomes problematic. The second it becomes problematic is when you lie to your audience, or when you start saying things you don't entirely believe in for a paycheck. At that point, you've sold your integrity. Congratulations, you'll never be able to buy it back. Go ahead and purchase yourself a golden coffin and say hi to St. Peter when you meet him. So do we ever think that YouTube will change from a consumerist-focused platform, pushing the next product, hype train, blah, 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 garbage content, to pro to a high standards training content? No, not really. Again, it's 1% of the couple percentage points that are already into the gun sphere in general, whatever you want to call it, that are actually interested in like really high value training content or really educational stuff or things that are actually of value, right? That's a very, very small percentage point. The best case scenario is that we go from 1% to 2.5%, and that's a pretty big win. And there's kind of like a trickle down effect there a little bit, where the entire environment becomes a little bit more serious and a little bit less slop focused. Now, that consumerist mindset will always be there. It's like been a thing for the last 100 years in America, that Americana mindset, right? And it's going to continue to be that way, and that's going to be the driving force for content on the platform and just in the cultural zeitgeist as well. But hopefully we can kind of siphon some of those people out of that consumerist mindset and into the more serious mindset. So if we can create some sort of pathway or pipeline from the normie to the extremist, that's probably not going to look good on my arraignment, but That being said, if there is a pathway for these people to become a little bit more serious in terms of the hard skills, quote unquote, and the things that are actually important versus just, haha, funny gun, go do thingy. Wow, that's amazing. Please show up tomorrow, and don't forget Raid Shadow Legends sponsor. Come to think of it, bad sponsorships should be a series of videos, or streams even, in the gun industry, because that's another thing that people peddle all sorts of silly things upon their audience for a quick buck. Now, I know some of the other content creators out there always complain that only the gun industry is held to this high of a standard. I disagree with that. Many other less serious industries are held to much higher standards by their own audience, and to that I would say, instead of complaining about high standards, simply acquire the strength to reach them. But again, people don't want to put in the work in general. That's why we're in this situation in the first place. They want to buy the thing, watch the video that agrees with their opinion, get that confirmation bias, and then rinse and repeat, and then block that meanie who said something mean about your product one time because your entire personality is wrapped up in the things that you own. Now, if we talk about the gun industry in general, I think it's kind of a scummy place. Lots of people at the top end seem to be involved in some really terrible, scummy things. There seems to be some odd overlap with the gun industry and Hollywood, or Hollywood wannabes coming into the gun industry, or vice versa, as well as other industries. That also won't look good in my arraignment hearing. But with all that out of the way, I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you think of the gun industry and gun content on YouTube in general. I'm sure there will be a vigorous, useful discussion in the comments down below. So with all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Don't buy anything. God bless.